I had to roll up the sleeves, get cracking.
Yeah.
Welcome to Book Club.
Except instead of books, it's games.
Oh, and instead of a club, there's us two.
But the rest of the idea is 100% the same.
As every fortnight, we play one game solidly,
Then come here to talk about it.
and we want you to do the same.
All the games are retro.
Most of them are Sega,
Some of them we've never played.
or, we've just forgotten we've played them.
Because we're old.
Because we're old! Because we're old.
Because we're old.
The Book Club has one central theme.
We play retro games for their quality.
Games that deserve to still be played.
There are some bonus old man memories to be had, but you don't need nostalgia if the game is awesome.
We're going to prove it.
In the Book Club.
Welcome to Book Club. Welcome back to Book Club. Welcome to the end of November. Welcome to nearly Christmas time. Exciting times. I'm feeling the buzz. I'm feeling the vibe, which is very important for today's game. Feel the vibe.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Indeed. Oh, yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, good. Yeah, I've been enjoying these games. Been enjoying making videos for the channel. It's been I don't think I've ever made videos so hard in my life. So it's been, good. I've been enjoying it. What about you? What about you, good sir?
Again, with the posh, I like it. We always start off with a nice bit of hoity-toity. And I'm good. I find that I'm getting a little bit downcast because I'm so terrible at games. Obviously, over the many years of gaming, we've done mainly. I just kind of stick to my core set of games for replay,
Right.
and I know them so well. I can nail them. What we're doing in Book Club is we are spreading our wings and playing new stuff, and I'm quickly discovering I kind of suck.
But what the youth say, get good, don't they?
Get good, yo, granddad. Get good, granddad. The triple G. Yeah, it's very good. Well, you know what I always forget to do on every video is introduce us. Hello, I'm Bedgel.
Oh.
And this is Dibs. Ahoy.
Howdy. How's it going?
There you go. Because what I found is when I do the editing, I've got our little logos which appear in the top of the screen, and I like to fade them in just after I've said our names. Yeah. And if I forget to do it, I know. So let's dive in, because this is a cracker of a game. I think, I don't know about you, I've the slight nerves about whether with my words I can do this game justice, because it's gonna it's an elusive little sucker. So what are we playing? What are we talking about?
We are playing the late Dreamcast game REZ, and it was also, I don't like talking about it too much, but it was the first game that came out on the PS2 after Sega went third party, and they actually ended up being developed side by side in the end, which the team wasn't too happy with. Apparently it put additional pressure, and they felt a bit down about it. I don't know if that's because of the Dreamcast had reached the end of its run and stuff like that. I don't really know. There could have been lots of different elements, but yeah, that's what we're playing today, REZ.
I mean, that must be true. You think about how, by the way, I saw the flash of pain across your face when it came to mentioning the PlayStation. Bearing in mind that, of course, came as such a shock to us. It was no massive surprise that they were struggling. It wasn't the hugest surprise that they stopped console production, because we'd obviously seen them struggle through the Saturn and Dreamcast in various ways. But I don't know if we were being naive, but the idea and the suddenness of them switching to third party and especially developing the PlayStation, Xbox, that's fine. You've had a bit of a thing with Microsoft, that's fine. But
it's true. Yeah, that's true. But no, actually, if you want to talk about naive, when the Dreamcast got cancelled, there was also news at the same time that the old Dreamcast architectures they still had laying around was getting shipped into these set-top boxes by Pace Microtechnology, so that the Dreamcast would live on in basically skybox looking things. And I was like, well, it ain't dead then. It's still going. It's just going to be in this different form. It's not a console anymore. It's this set-top box kind of thing. Yeah, that didn't even end up happening, I don't think.
Well, I'll throw in one of my favourite little nuggets, because stuff like that did happen. They had all these chipsets or motherboards or whatever the proper word is lying around, And the one that I read about was it became like a menu ordering system in a chain of sushi restaurants in Japan.
So you see that?
Yeah, so it's like
that's pretty weird.
I think there were two things that they did with it. One was like it was like a virtual aquarium setup. So the Dreamcast would run this aquarium with interactive fish and stuff, which I think they had in the sushi restaurant. And you could then go on and interact with the menu and order your food and stuff. And it didn't, maybe, because I've seen some screenshots, obviously never seen it in real life, but maybe like, vaguely you could see that distinctive HD, well not HD, you know, like high res kind of sheen and the colourfulness of the Dreamcast stuff. But
if you could plug your VMU in and compare like your eating prowess or something with some other dude or something.
Take your little fish home with you.
Yeah,
so it did kind of live on, but yeah, perhaps naive of us to think when they said it was going to live on, that we get to play it.
More, it was less going out in the blaze of glory that I was expecting. It was more like when they repurposed the shells for Atari Jaguars for like some kind of dental kind of thing stuck on the wall. If you ever saw those pictures.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's maybe it's a bit better than that, but yeah, it's as disappointing maybe. So oh, I don't know, where did we get from that? Oh, we were talking about REZ and like, which is the title of the video, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, but the point being, obviously, it was right at the end of the Dreamcast life, so it had a very small run. It wasn't a game that at the time I was familiar with at all. I think my Dreamcast library was pretty thin compared to my Saturn and previous libraries anyway, because I was a poor student at the time. But I think REZ just kind of, it just kind of passed you by at the time. And I think you said you knew about it, but you were kind of aggrieved.
I was well aware of it, yeah, but I was sort of like, because basically in the Dreamcast Live, I did this thing where if there was like a game that reviewed like 80% or above in kind of like, you know, kind of across the board for the magazines, that was in my targets to get. So I was always buying these games. But by the end, kind of like, you know, the last kind of few games like REZ, Cannon Spike, all those games that I really wish I picked up now, but I was feeling like dejected and stuff. It was like, you know, like Sega was like over or something, and I was feeling very lost. I just didn't know where to go and all that sort of stuff. And then I was thinking like, oh man, I'm gonna have to like buy a PS2 and stuff and be a PS2 player of these games and that. But it was I don't know, it was a weird feeling, but kind of like, I stopped doing that buying thing kind of when those kind of final few games were coming out.
Oh dude, I was about to congratulate you for what a winning strategy there was for picking up future
gens.
It
was really good.
It did work, but just not on these. I just also like to draw
like 90% of them sort of up until that last kind of few.
I've got to draw a contrast between this. If anything sums up our attitudes more than what you just said, it's that your attitude to PS2 was, oh, I've got to get a PS2, and whereas the rest of the world just like queuing up at midnight, desperately trying to get their hands on the thing. There you go. Different strokes for different folks.
I remember actually getting that PS2. I annoyed all my friends because of they wanted to go boating, and I wanted to go and buy a PS2, and they were like, "Don't go and do that. Come and play the boats. Do the boats with us." I was like, "No, I want a PS2. I'll see you later." And off I went, and I could feel, you know, when you're walking away and everyone's disapproving, you can feel it like in the back of your head sort of thing as you walk away.
So what I'm picturing now is your Road to Special Champion Edition, the animated bit, the hand-drawn animated bit, where like the game has arrived at your house and you just ditch me, ditch your mum, ditch my mum.
I did do that. I literally ran. I ran like I've never run.
But it's now a history. It's now a history of where there's a game involved. It's like leaving.
And I was back at your house like within like half an hour or something. So with the game,
Ledge.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, you first encountered it back in the day. I encountered it much later. I think it was something that like I think we were both saying before, when they did the Xbox version, it's a live arcade version, wasn't it? And it just, you know, many times I'd just be sat there like, you know, to do like scroll through, see what takes your fancy, just try and get some random indie stuff or random whatever cheap stuff going on, and it just stood out. I didn't get it, but it did make me go and get the Dreamcast one. I don't know when it was, maybe sometime in the sort of like late 2000s, maybe about sort of 2010. And then it sat there for ages because my Dreamcast wouldn't connect to a modern telly. I didn't know any of the connections bit, so I had it for a while, and it was not like crazy expensive. It was before it went completely nuts to like get Dreamcast games generally and REZ specifically.
Yeah.
So one of the few early finds, probably on your advice, to like start snapping things up. But
yeah. I mean, I think I can only guess that REZ HD, because it was 2008 it came out. That's when I was ready to play REZ. I'd come to terms with what had happened, and like that's where I'm guessing I played it, because like I'd never had the Dreamcast one. I have the PS2 version that I've only got like in the last couple of years or something like that. But like, yeah, the Xbox Live version must be the one I played because I know the game. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it's more than just videos. Like I've played this game before, and I can only think it was that version.
Yeah, that makes sense, and the timing makes sense as well. That must be around when I then got the Dreamcast version, like because it must have been out on Xbox to have had me prompting it. Now we're going to have to tackle something tricky here, because most people watching this will know what REZ is about. Most people will have seen it, played it, have a go. And they'll also know that it's incredibly hard to describe. So let's just say up front, we won't do a good job of describing what it is. But let's have a go at, for those that haven't played it, describing what it is that they're missing out on. And for those that have, maybe just give them a cheap laugh at our expense for being So you can go first if you like.
Thanks.
How would you describe REZ?
Okay, so REZ, it's like a rail shooter with a strong musical element to it.
Nice.
So your shooting kind of like translates into beats that then blend in with the music going on in the background. Yeah. It's kind of like, it's wireframe looking. Like I actually saw that they actually developed it as a bit of a nod to the 1983 Star Wars and Missile Command games, where it was like, you know, very liney. Yeah. And also, and also like the guy, what was his name? Whose art they?
Oh, Kandinsky.
Yes. Vasily Kandinsky, that's it. I do apologize. Yeah, no, it was like based a lot off of his kind of style of artwork, which is very line intensive. And I mean, basically, I almost don't want to use a comparison. It looks like Tron, but it looks like Tron. So you know what I mean.
So I love this because obviously you've gone with rail shooter, you've then gone with music, and now you're sort of trying to merge Tron and Kandinsky together. And so this is why people can understand we might struggle to explain exactly what it's like. I'd have gone experience, right? Because I was playing it obviously over the past couple of weeks, and every time I like fired it up, I kept flitting between like, am I enjoying this? Is this good? Like, is it as, like, we'll mention it later, is it as good as Panzer Dragoon for a shooting game? And then it just sort of began to fade, and you just experience it, right? REZ is like, yes, it's a rail shooter, and yes, it's musical, but it's like all the visuals and the music all together. It's just this experience. That was no better an explanation, but it's all of those things we've just said. Like, it is, take them in your head and smush them into one. Like,
well, in our defense, I did read that Tetsuya Mizuguchi, terrible pronouncing these names, but when he was pitching it to Sega, the idea, he couldn't even explain it himself. He was like really struggling to get them to understand what it was. And when he first showed it off, like publicly, he didn't say anything or do anything. He just played the game, and then people saw it and they got it. Yeah. But it's like, it is one of those things that's very hard outside of physically seeing it or playing it to kind of understand, I suppose, or to like, you know.
Well, that makes you think, well done us, because we can cheat, because obviously through the magic of editing, beneath us will be the game playing. So I know that's creepy. I would hate to be your wife in bed at night. Is that what happens?
No.
So I'd love to be your wife. Is that what you want to hear? I don't know. Anyway, enough.
Anyway, the game.
The funny thing is, I read that thing about Kandinsky, and I was like, Kandinsky? What the hell are you talking about? Like, if he mentioned that when he was pitching it to the Sega bosses, I'm like, what? Like, but you go and look at Kandinsky's artwork, and just immediately you're like, oh yeah, I totally see that. It's like, there's a way. There's two things that REZ does that I guess really make that work. One is, I suppose, the line art. The Kandinsky has a lot of like shapes and lines and stuff. It's not really flowing forms, is it? It's more like lines. And there's a lot of overlapping Kandinsky stuff. It's like a lot of shapes on top of each other, all happening at once. And the bit where that pictures it is, you know, every time you defeat one of the sub stages in REZ, and it does that little kind of, the screen kind of blurs and it sort of morphs, and there's, you know, all the scenery changes.
Then you go through the node thing to the next kind of part.
You like zoom through. There are a few of the Kandinsky paintings that's exactly how it feels. You know, they're quite. There's a lot of motion in them, and you feel like you're being sucked in. Anyway, if we'll put those on the screen, obviously. But like,
he was a really big like influence on the whole thing. Like what we were saying earlier. Like one of the development names for the game was K Project, and that's based off of his second name, Kandinsky. So, you know, he's really central to what they were kind of like taking influence from.
Yeah, because you see it referred to as K Project in like previews, and when they're talking about the game coming, or I read an interview with him and it was talking about what have you got going on. Obviously this is like back in the day, and they talk about K Project as a thing, so it wasn't like just a pet name. They obviously thought this is its working title. Also, sort of Vibes. Is it also called Vibes, or is that just like the soundtrack?
I wrote down a whole bunch. So I wrote down there was K Project. K on its own was one of the ones. Project Eden, which is based off of the kind of center of the AI kind of thing in the story. Vibes, and one of the other ones was just Sound Project. So, yeah.
Is this go on?
Yeah, no, go on. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, is this speaking to the fact that they just didn't know what the hell they were making?
I mean, it sounded like they got quite far along before they really settled on REZ. And I mean, do you want to go over the other names that we got, like why it was called REZ quickly?
Well, I mean, it's probably one of the few games in the world where the origin of the name is so wound up with the game itself. So I saw some references. You saw loads. So there were other names, right? That you.
Well, I mean, basically, I saw one guy was saying that REZ came from the word resolve. Another guy said it came from the word resolute. But then eventually, apparently, Mizuguchi, I'm saying that right, he took inspiration from Tron, like as I just mentioned, and the whole rezzing and de-rezzing kind of thing, like, you know, that goes on in that, which I can't really remember that well, even though like I've seen both those movies, but I can't really remember it. But like de-rezzing is like when you die, basically. In Tron, you get deleted and you kind of fall apart into funny little pixels and all that sort of stuff. I think.
Yeah, if this is from the original Tron movie, I really don't remember it. So I did have to do a little cheat and look it up, and I found it on the science fiction and fantasy wiki, which I'm sure is really good. I'd just like to point out to the makers of Science Fiction and Fantasy Wiki, though, the font you've used for fantasy makes it look like a porn site. I'm just gonna put that out there. Maybe have a rethink. I don't know. But
so their direction. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. So it's saying like, and this is what convinces me, because there are other references. So we'll mention those in a sec. But I really feel like this is the fit, because it says DREZ, short for de-resolution, is a term used to describe someone or something disappearing or dissolving, essentially resulting in deletion, right? It's a program's equivalent of death or the destruction of a building or vehicle. The opposite of DREZ is REZ, a program's equivalent of birth or loading, starting a program in the system. And you read that while watching REZ, and that just fits, right? It's like this idea of like
sense.
Birth in the system, of like generating new stuff, the way the character like evolves from your little sort of like orb thing into
all the way
more and more fully fledged character. But it just seems to fit. And obviously all the being in the system idea and like hacking the system through the gameplay is sort of a very Tron thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the whole thing with the story, isn't it? It's like, I mean, like at a basic level, it was a hacker's journey into a malfunctioning AI system, isn't it? And I mean, like just to go over it, it's like Eden is the core AI, that starts doubting itself, like in this whole computer system. And it's a bit like, I actually wrote a note here, it's a bit like Kit after he was dumped into the acid pit in Junkyard Dog, and Michael has to have a word and build him up again so he's confident again, and then he goes down and sorts everything out.
I just wonder what is up with our minds, because I'm working on a video on the side where I also make a couple of references to Kit and Michael and I, and I'm like, how does this stuff how does it just keep finding its way back into our videos? It's like,
because it's awesome.
Yeah, it's quite awesome. So
the player basically takes on that role of trying to defeat the firewalls and viruses and all that stuff to awaken Eden so it can achieve its full potential and awaken it. So basically, at the end of the day, it's putting right what once went wrong. So there you go.
I had a
core of every good story.
I had a little tease that was going to find its way into this video, and I'm glad it has. It's good. Yeah. So I'd just like to say, all that stuff you've just described, that whole plot that you've just delivered to us, is expressed in the game through that tiny video at the start where Eden just goes, ooh.
Yeah.
And that's all she does.
No real explanation.
And then it zooms out. And it just really reminded me of your videos, when the ones you do, where you always have the little cuts to you doing emotion stuff.
Well, when I can't remember my line, so I have to overdub it and then act along to it.
It's just the sort of thing you would do, ooh, I've been hacked. Oh, gonna have to. Anyway, so I just thought it was great.
That's a good way of doing the vids. I'll have you.
It is. No doubt I'm going to completely rip it off because it's that good. So it's yeah, thanks. So, but there are a bunch. So that is the one I'm going to go with, the Tron description. But there is obviously the very compelling one, the one you see more often. Actually, you do see Tron mentioned, but the other is that when they're in development. So when it was K Project. They were using an Underworld track as their bass line that they were building the game around. Placeholder track.
Yeah.
And that they hoped to get Underworld on board. And I think you were saying they hoped to get Chemical Brothers and
Prodigy. I think I saw a whole bunch of people, but
which would have been awesome. Let's be honest. Music was great. Don't get me wrong, but those would have been amazing. Yeah. But so they're using Underworld as this placement track. Placeholder track, and Underworld have got a track called REZ, and so which I understand was not released as a single, except I'm sure you often see it referred to on the internet as REZ/Cowgirl, with Cowgirl being the B-side. Anyway, so they had a song called REZ, and you're thinking, okay, so it's
all tying in here.
I mean,
it's all adding up.
I just think that is a hell of a coincidence, unless they were sat there going, oh my god, it fits with Tron. And it fits with Underworld. We got to do this, Miz.
This is meant to be.
It's fate. That's probably what he did in the pitch to Sega. He's like, guys, I want to make a game. I can't really describe it, but Underworld have got it, and it's in Tron, right? And just stops.
Yeah, they were getting out the checkbooks, dude, this guy's on to something.
But
speaking of the soundtrack, actually, I was very pleased. It was on the 5th level, which is the last level. I was I was suddenly struck with nostalgia at the sound of Adam Freeland, which was a CD I bought many years ago. I think I heard it around Chris's house, our friend Chris, and I was like, this is really cool. I went and got it, and my favorite track off of it was Fear is the Mind Killer. It's a really good song, and that is the kind of basis for the track on that 5th level. So I was like, oh man, this is amazing. It was so cool just to hear that again, and he actually got properly involved. So whereas they didn't manage to secure the rights to the Chemical Brothers and all those kind of things, they did get this guy on board, and he actually got properly involved. So he did proper remixes for it, so it would work with the game and stuff. And it's I was just feeling it when I heard that song, because that was my favorite one off of his album for sure.
Well, I'm going to give you a Chandler impression now, because I wouldn't know, having missed it all. Which, by the way, is from the episode where he skips over the little girl's jump rope when the bullies are at the cafe. And
good episode.
It's a good episode. It's a damn good episode. I'm sick of drinking cappuccino with a K. Anyway, These are bad impressions. But the point being, I wouldn't know because I haven't played level 5. Because even though I've played 1, 2, 3, 4, which I was assured by many a internet site, and I think you, level 5 didn't unlock, so I presume I just haven't done well enough on levels 1 to 4, and it's like punishment.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It just I did level 4 and then I could just play level 5. So
all right, rubbing it in now.
So you
that's good.
really suck. Yeah.
I did say earlier. Look, it's all full admission. I'm terrible. But yeah, it owes it. I wouldn't say it owes a lot to the soundtrack, but it's absolutely like tied in with the soundtrack. So it is fascinating to think what it would have been like with tracks you knew. So obviously you've had that experience with the Adam Freeland track, and I think, yeah, would it have been better or worse? Because the thing is, like, you do get really lost in the music. It's the fact that I haven't heard it before really helps with the whole idea of just disappearing into it. And there is a bit actually which we have to mention, which I'm surprised didn't come up before. The other bit of the Kandinsky link, the idea of getting lost in it, this is the link, by the way, in case you're wondering why I'm going, was Kandinsky's work was synaesthesia. And so the idea Kandinsky was trying to get across was that when he painted, he was kind of painting his other feelings. So synaesthesia itself is this idea that your senses get confused. So instead of feeling touch, you experience it visually, or instead of hearing sounds, you experience it visually, or any other sort of mix of it. And so he took this idea from Kandinsky, was saying he wanted that melding of senses, of sight, sound, feel.
Yeah.
And that is so. That's REZ. That's the bit. You know, we were trying to describe it. That's what we should have said. Because synaesthesia is it, right?
Well, no, like I wrote down because I was like, I don't know what that is. So I kind of looked into it, and I got like a perceptual phenomenon, stimulation of one sense resulting in an experience in another. So it's like I saw the examples like seeing shapes when there's a particular smell, or you get a particular color from music, or associating colors with numbers. But I also thought, with the Friends reference as well, is it a bit like when Ross ate that taco and pooed himself on Space Mountain, and now he can never eat those again because of the association you see from the smell or the sight of tacos? So, that was the way I was trying to rationalize it. Like, I don't really get it. But wait a minute.
That to me is pure science. And I'm also all of these like random ideas we're having. I'm again still picturing Mizuguchi in front of the big wigs at Sega, pitching all this. Guys, they're not. It's not landing. Guys, listen. It's a bit like that bit with Ross.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but I was still looking for how it was actually kind of connected to the game, and the sentence that I found was he wanted to create this by having gameplay sync and associate with the music. So it's like what you were hearing kind of like was tying in with what you were doing with your hands, like the play and stuff like that. So that and that's kind of like how I think it kind of was implemented.
And REZ introduced me to a word which I'd never heard before, which is a quantizer. Did you read that?
Okay.
So apparently it has an inbuilt quantizer, which is something that you get in like high-end synth and musical equipment. And the idea is it basically helps time your inputs with the music. So I never saw an explanation of exactly how it does it, but what I'm guessing is if you're,
it was weird actually.
If you're ever so slightly off,
that
it doesn't register the sound or whatever until it fits the beat. Because obviously the beats are fast. It's like high beats per minute, isn't it? So I'm guessing that's what I'm guessing. If someone knows the answer,
that
then
would
feel
make
free
sense.
to tell me.
Because I was kind of listening out, and I was like, I don't get how my shooting is fitting in with this so well, sort of thing. You know what I mean? But that actually kind of makes sense.
I sort of understand it as like auto-tune, but for rhythm, which is great.
Right.
If I had a quantizer and auto-tune, I might actually be able to play in a band, which would be marvellous.
There you go.
Probably not a good idea.
Let's hope,
yeah. I think the thing is with this synaesthesia thing, it really, and the feel. Sorry, before we go on to what I was about to say, you know what we have to mention at this point, don't you? We have to mention the REZ vibrator. Because
so this was like only with the PS2 version.
Yeah, sadly.
It, like unsurprisingly initially came out in Japan, didn't it? But I think you could buy it off of the American Sega website or something, and Yeah, you wanna take this one?
Well, I was only going to say. So first, I looked it up. Cause, do you know what? I only heard about the REZ vibrator purely coincidentally, like listening to the Game Older podcast like a few weeks back, and like one of the chats in there has got it, and I was like, and I just happened to sort of catch the word vibrator, so I messaged him on Twitter about it. But yeah, so the REZ vibrator. So the first thing I found when I went on the internet was an interview with Mizuguchi where he talks about it, and it's essentially, the quote goes, Mizuguchi laughs and then says with a wink, "It's really not sexual." So that explains where the controversy lies, because it obviously comes out, and the idea is that it takes it into 4D, right? So you've got the sound, you've got the feel and the touch, you've got the shooting and the interaction, you've got all this stimulation of your senses, and then physically it vibrates in time with the music and like helps like bring it out, and haptic feedback.
What did you like? Yeah, it's like a rumble pack, isn't it? That you basically stick on yourself somewhere.
But it looks, if you look it up, it looks a bit like, it doesn't look anything like this actually now I've picked it up, but it doesn't look like phallic shape, let's just put it that way. It's like a block. It's a block. So look, I don't want to keep going filthy, but if you did want to shove it down your knickers, you'd need a tight elastic. That's all I'm going to say. So I think controversy over, because there ain't no way you're using that for anything dodgy.
Yeah.
So, but that was the idea from the game, and in all fairness to him, it totally works, because we were just about to say, like, haptic feedback on games now is huge, and when it's done well, it is a really fantastic addition. You don't necessarily notice it, but it really helps, like especially modern controllers that really have the proper like multi-vibration like haptic senses and stuff. It's so good and so clever. And when was the PlayStation version coming out then? So this was like 2001, 2? I don't know actually.
I think it was 2000. Oh, it came out 22nd of November 2001 in Japan, but I think we got it February 20th 2002.
Yeah.
And America got it January 8th 2002.
And
so that was Dreamcast and PS2.
Like vibration and rumble packs and stuff obviously have been a thing for a while by that point. But the idea of this sort of full peripheral, which it was a lot more powerful, I think was the main thing. So I kind of
I think it had some kick to it.
Yeah. It's just, I think it's a great idea, and it fits with what he was wanting to do. And actually, you see some interviews with Mizuguchi, and he seems to have had the idea way back when that it would be this 4D thing with all the senses, and it almost I think I read at some point he actually does say explicitly, I was disappointed I couldn't bring it out on the Dreamcast, but so the REZ vibrator. But I think it really, I found it increasingly interesting reading about Mizuguchi and the development of this game, because you'll know him. I think a lot of people will know him from Sega Rally. You'll know him from the racing games. So what did he do? Sega Rally. Then he moved on. He did Sega Touring Cars. He did Max DT as well, right? If I remember rightly. So
I think so. Yeah.
I think so. And you read interviews with him from around the point where they're making touring cars and obviously pre-REZ development. But he had the idea. He had the idea of doing something like this. But all of that stuff just makes think how interesting Mizuguchi is as a person, because I think most people will know him from Sega Rally, and definitely if you've watched the Pandemonium Sega Rally video, Mizuguchi is like a celeb in that. He is the man, and quite rightly so. As the producer for the arcade and then for the home version, he's huge. But I didn't really clock where he went after that, and I think it's fascinating. You know him for doing these racing games, so like the Sega Rally, Touring Car, Max TT, and he did do Max TT anyway. But you know him for racing games, and but then he obviously had ideas to do something completely different. And I was reading some interviews with him, like just preparing for this vid. His ideas about the type of games he wanted to do were clearly there, like way from the start. And in fact, there's a thread. This is going to sound like a bit of a leap, but I really think there's a thread that runs through all of his games, from like Sega Rally all the way through like Space Channel 5 and into REZ and onwards. And that's this idea of like the feel of it. So like, you could get there anyway, but it was specifically like I read this interview with him. In fact, let me just remember specifically what he said, because I've got it over here on the screen. So he talks about saying when he was at university, he studied arts. He didn't do like tech or program or anything like that. It was like an arts degree that he did, and he said that he studied the senses. He liked the physical senses, physical media, and so on. And he came out of there really wanting to do something to do with like movement and human interaction and something very hands-on. So I think you might have read about him. I think he did, what was it called? Megalopolis, is that the name? So the first thing he did at Sega, I think, was work on one of those like not virtual reality, but those like full simulation rides where they go up and down. And you think, so that kind of fits. And then with Sega Rally, all the stories about how he took his team to like race, like driving the rally cars, and how he brought in Fushimoto and he talked to him at length about like how the car should feel and how it should change on the mud surface and the concrete and all that tarmac surface. And that idea of feel in Rally was huge. Rally itself was an amazing game because of that exact thing. And him taking his team out, he did the same thing with touring cars. He took them and they raced these cars around the track, and he talks about how he wanted the cars to feel heavy, how he wanted the graphics to look heavy, to be solid. And that's his language, that's his way of thinking about games, is he doesn't seem to talk about, I wanted slick frame rate, I wanted this, I wanted that. He talks about the emotional like resonance of it. And so
well, they nailed it with Sega Rally for sure. That was all about the feel. So,
not sure they quite nailed it with touring cars, but like it was we'll give him a day off. But that it's less obvious in that it's this sort of emotional feel bit with racing games, but you can see the thread when you look back. But then you go to Space Channel 5, and this, I think he was given the design brief by Sega to say, make something that would appeal to girls, and that was basically the task he was given. And they had some kind of prototype running when he came aboard the project, and he was like, this is really boring, we've got to like ramp it up. And so he took inspiration from Stomp, the musical Stomp.
Oh, okay.
It's like all people like crashing bin lids together and stomping on stage and stuff.
I know.
And he was saying specifically like they had this, they have these routines where they get the audience involved, and you can really think that's what Alala does. She gets the audience involved, and it's like And he said all my devs on Space Channel 5, they were so stiff, and he got a mime in, so he got a mime artist to come in, and he made them all like do these mime routines where they'd like come up with like joke routines and try and make each other laugh and stuff. And then REZ, where it's if REZ has one thing, it's a game that you experience, right? It's not really about anything else other than the experience of it.
No, that's true. Yeah.
And I just think, and then this whole thing talking about Kandinsky and synaesthesia, he obviously just has a motif. He has this developer way of doing things that you can. I don't think it's a stretch to say there is something that runs from Sega Rally skidding around a muddy hairpin all the way through to REZ. Do you see what I mean? It's like, it's nuts, but it's totally true, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's really there. So
yeah, definitely, yeah. But it's good because of it's I even saw like a thing about Miyamoto, like saw him what he was doing with REZ, and he was giving him like props and stuff like that. So it was really good to like, that like for such a high up guy to be giving like him credit for what he was doing and stuff, because it is really interesting, like these kind of directions he's taken and what he's been trying to do with these games. It's just like, it's outside of the usual killing and all that sort of stuff, whatever it is in games, and I think it's been really interesting, like playing REZ, just kind of seeing this whole different other kind of thing that's it isn't the norm, is it?
No, it's something totally different. And I read I think it was on the Dreamcast Junkyard talking about REZ, maybe from a few years ago, but they made an excellent point, which basically saying it feels it's weathered so well because it didn't try to be advanced or of its time at the time. It was about this experience, something quite timeless. So you pick it up today and it feels as fresh as it did back then, and that's so true. So true.
That is very true. Yeah, like actually, like one of the things that I was going to mention is like the versions that we were playing. So you were playing the Dreamcast one.
Yeah,
right?
I was on Dreamcast. Yeah.
Yes, but I played the PS2 version, but I also played REZ Infinite, which has a full conversion of the original REZ. It's the PS4 version, but like it plays plays the same, but it had another additional mode in it. I can't remember what it's called now, but it was kind of like a more Area X, and it was like more of a free roaming mode. But I kind of stuck with the main modes that we were kind of playing and that. But yeah, I just kind of thought we should mention the versions that we.
How does that free mode work then? Because REZ is a rail shooter, so any kind of freedom seems like alien. So what does it do?
Yeah, well, I mean, like basically you can like roam around, and it's apparently like the closest they ever got to what REZ 2 was going to be. It wasn't going to be like kind of locked in on rails and stuff like that. You were going to be able to go where you wanted and kind of like, you know, do your thing as you kind of felt fit and stuff, really, I suppose.
And one thing you've played, which I really, really want to play, which I haven't yet, is the virtual reality version, right? So
yeah. So I don't get on well with virtual reality. It makes me feel very sick, and like I couldn't play it for that long because it's like it wasn't like the first game that I think I got put on. Like basically my mate, like he loves virtual reality. He's had like, you know, the second they've been out, he had the Oculus One. Is there two Oculuses? 1, 2?
Oh, I think there's been a few now. Yeah, because I had an Oculus
and then
2,
he got the PSVR. He got the the PS5 VR, and that's where I think I played REZ in virtual reality. But I think before that he stuck me on a couple of other things, so I was starting to feel a bit queasy. So it was like I definitely remember there was like Beat Saber and all this other kind of stuff.
I mean,
but,
Jesus,
like, by the time I got to REZ, I was like, man, I'm gonna have to take this thing off. I'm like, literally, if I play this till the end of this level, your living room's gonna be full of peers.
I've got to play it, but I will be the same. Because I think I was saying to you, before, like I had an Oculus and I've played a few games in it, and anything where the motion sickness inducing, where your body in the game is moving independently from your real self, it's really hard to take.
It throws you off,
really
so bad.
And I've played Phasmophobia, you know, the ghost hunting game, and so it's quite slow. You know, it's quite, you don't run around. It's quite slow, and all you really do is
streamed it before.
Yeah, you walk around this house hunting ghosts, and it was actually quite fantastic because obviously the ghosts in this virtual reality were horrific, and but my God, just walk around this house slow is enough. So REZ, even on the screen, you know, I tend to stand right in front of the telly like playing REZ. Weirdly, I don't even told you this, but I always play it standing up as well. Like, cause I just like moving around while it's playing. It's, you know,
REZ.
Yeah, REZ.
Yeah. I was just thinking you were talking about the other game.
No. I feel like almost feel like you should play it standing up so that you can kind of like interact with it. But I just did it the first time, and now I just do it every time. It's good. Give it a go. That's my kink.
I'll give it a try. Yeah.
But I must try it. But yes, 100% I'll be vomiting. You know, something that we didn't mention actually, because we did this whole thing about Mizuguchi and saying how he's put his stamp on the game and he's got this motif and all that. But actually, there is a little extra thing we must mention, which is he personally in interviews denies that the gameplay takes its steer from Panzer Dragoon. But two things. One, it obviously does in terms of the rail shooting bit. And two, like what backs that up is that he took this big chunk of Team Andromeda with him.
Yeah, so, I think I saw 4 developers or something, because Team Andromeda had been basically disbanded after Panzer Saga or something.
Yeah.
And they ended up basically with him. And because, like, well, I mean, if they had any influence on it, you could certainly see it, I'd say. But having just played Panzer Dragoon recently, it actually helped me a lot, because I'm really bad at shooting games. Like, it really takes me a long time to kind of get my eye in, sort of thing. But, like, going from Panzer Dragoon, because like we played the Saturn version and I also played the remake version, and then going on to REZ, it really helped, because then I could play REZ like way better than I probably would have if I hadn't have played it beforehand.
It's actually fascinating to think. So I read, obviously when we were doing Panzer Dragoon recently, I read quite a lot of stuff around the team, and my God, every interview when they started talking about Zwei going into Saga, mainly on Saga, that team was burnt out. Like they try and be very polite Japanese developers, very like respectful of the company, but it is categoric. They they endured the production of Panzer Dragoon Saga, that team. You know, it grew from something small. I think there were like 15 devs on Panzer Original and I think 50-ish on Panzer Dragoon Saga. And
I heard there was a real tragedy, actually. I think some guy died, didn't he, or something?
Yeah, I think...
I don't want to go down too dark of a path here, but
the point
there was something like that.
I mean, the point I'm making is that that was their experience at the disbanding of Team Andromeda. And then this is where they go effectively next, you know, because I'm guessing that was the timing. You know, it's Panzer Dragoon Saga, obviously right at the end of the Saturn, start of the Dreamcast life. This is where they went. And that was probably very good for them. You know, you think that team of devs, you can see that they would want to take it. Would want to take the chance because it would, I don't know, it would be a new experience, try and get rid of some of that horrendous stress. But they had all been making Panzer Dragoon games for the last, 5-6 years? About 5 years, isn't it? So the idea that they wouldn't then take it across, just play Panzer Dragoon and then play REZ. Obviously the main thing is the lock-on system that REZ uses is one of Panzer Dragoon's mechanisms. Obviously in Panzer Dragoon you also can shoot just straight up, and in REZ you can sort of fudge it to just shoot, but you can't. You don't actually have a shoot button.
No, you can't shoot if you're floating and there's no enemies there. You can't tap the shoot button and have it fire out shots like you can in Panzer Dragoon. But if you're there, you can tap it so it very quickly locks onto them, and it kind of simulates that kind of.
And some of them it felt like that was better.
I definitely employed that tactic towards the end of the game because just the regular lock on wasn't doing it for me in certain instances, and I was like, right, I got to do this differently, and that's when I started using a little tap rule. So.
But nice Happy Gilmore reference there, very good. And
thank you.
But the point being, the feel of locking on to enemies, even the speed at which the reticle moves around, it just it really feels like it takes its difference from Panzer Dragoon, which is no bad thing. It's a
great little mechanism. But I enjoy playing it.
It feels like a good point to go properly into gameplay though, because we've alluded to what REZ is like as a game, what it is. But I'm going to say at its core it's a rail shooter, but at its core it's loads of things. But certainly one part of it is it's a rail shooter, and how did you find it? You can make the obvious comparison to Panzer Dragoon or any rail shooter. I'm just going to really quickly mention it, because in between us playing this, I bought a game on Steam called Mirage Feathers, which I had to look up because I've only played it once, which is more kind of a space area type rail shooter. Well, actually, no, it's really more like an afterburner rail shooter. But but that obviously has an afterburner style lock-on system where you can lock on and fire missiles and stuff, but it's interesting to note how different that does feel from Panzer Dragoon or REZ. So I might be labouring it too much. The lock-on between those two games is similar, but if you play another one like Afterburner or this Mirage Feathers, you can really see it. There is quite a difference in the dynamic. So
I get
Anyway, how did you find the game to play?
Well, it was confusing at first. It's a simple game, and but at first I was a bit like, what is happening here? And but it actually leads you in quite nicely. I find the way you kind of progress, kind of is mirrored by your kind of understanding of what's going on and stuff. So when I'm starting to collect up the little blue things or the little red things for the overdrive and all that sort of stuff, and then by the end I was totally into it, and I was strategizing everything. So on the last level I was saving my overdrive for particular moments and things, and then just trying to get my character built up by a particular point so that if I could take the very likely hit that I knew was coming, I was ready for it and stuff. So it was in a way it's kind of quite arcadey in its simplicity. But at the same time, like arcade games, there's usually an underlying depth right there as well, and that is what I experienced with the game. And by the end of it, I was just having a blast with it, and just it's usually, but with this kind of games, it's I finish playing it and then I usually start them right away again. And I played through the first couple of levels after beating the final one. And actually with the final level, like I kind of hit a bit of a wall this one night because like I think I had 4 goes of it and I just couldn't do it, and it was like I was like, oh man, it's not clicking. I was like, and I don't want to like blame like, oh, I was tired and all these kind of like excuses and stuff like that. But then when I did go to it fresh the next day, I did it like on my first go and that, and it was like, you know, I probably was in the wrong kind of place like that previous night and was pushing it a little bit too much with how late it had gotten and stuff. And yeah, it definitely benefited me to come back fresh and also give me a bit of time to think about stuff like when I was going to use the overdrive and stuff to clear particular points and that. So yeah, but like I don't know, overall it was just a really great fun time, and yeah, it drew me in, and by the end I would happily have played it a bunch more times.
Well, yeah, that thing of you like reflecting on it and strategizing and actually contemplating afterwards, I mean, that's such a mark of a great game that it could draw you in that much, because it is ostensibly crazily simple. It's almost too easy, because you can kind of, you don't really need a lot of skill to get through levels, says he, having not level 5, but you know, it does. You know, you can get through it relatively quickly. And it got a lot of complaints at the time that it's too short. It only had 5 levels. But yeah, the strategy element is there and the replay value is there. And I was thinking 2 things. I've sent you before, you know, there's this, I was stood in front of it, this first run through a couple of weeks ago. And after a few minutes, I was thinking, am I enjoying this? Like, is this like, it's kind of, I appreciate like it's kind of cool and different, but am I actually enjoying it? And then like, I can't sort of pretend I did anything special. It just kind of clicked, right? Because I just sort of went into that mode of, this is more an experience. It's less about the shooting, which is decent. You know, it's perfectly playable. It's partly about the music. It's partly about the shooting. It's partly about the quantizer keeping everything in time. And it is just that experience. And so that's one part. One part of the replay is, it kind of doesn't matter like how long each level is or how much you play it. It's so easy to pick back up again, because you still get that same excitement vibe coming off it, whatever part of the game you're in.
It's got the hype.
But the other part is it's got that challenge score attack element to it. You know, this bit of, you can learn the patterns, you can obviously get familiar with where the enemies and the like unlockables come in. You can sit there at night thinking, when shall I use my overdrive, and when shall I like attack and stuff. It's got strategy. It's just, you don't need the strategy to get through the game base layer. You need the strategy to unlock its secrets and its like extra modes and stuff. And I think that's better, right? That's a kind of cleverness to the strategy, that it'll let you in. It's a bit like Panzer Dragoon with it's letting you do the first 4 levels on easy
like
mode.
You do on easy,
but to unlock it properly,
they're not going to give it all away.
Yeah, and that seems to be what REZ has done to me. I've played 4 levels, beaten the 4 levels, but it hasn't given me level 5, and it seems to be I've got to get better. I've got to
work to get it.
Yeah,
get good.
And fair play to it. And even the story kind of unfolds in that similar way, doesn't it? You know, I was taking the mick a bit before about that whole thing about Eden being like losing confidence in herself and like retreating into the system, and all that is told for this one bit of visual at the start. But of course it's also then told in the random text in the top left of the screen, these random bits about hacking and systems, and you've made it through and defenses have fallen, and there's quick boss explanations. It doesn't at any point just sit you down and explain what's going on, but it does make it clear. You know, by the end you're like, okay, I know what's going on, and you know, that's great as well. So appreciated it. It is fun.
It's a really fun game.
It's fun, and I'll just play it over and over, and I'll keep coming back to it. I mean, since I bought it, I'll probably pick it up like once a year for a go. You know, it's like it'll get a rotation in the Dreamcast, and even better now because I've got the GDEMU in the main Dreamcast. And it's just there, and it's just ready to go. It's like obviously in the last couple of weeks we've been playing, it's been especially so. But now you just turn it on. It is a brilliant game for just, I've got 10 minutes spare. Let's just have a go on something.
Yeah, crash for a couple levels, whatever.
Yeah, and that's so handy. I love having games that fit in that. I'm a dad. I've got kids. I've got work. I've got 10 minutes. What you got, games? Final Fantasy. You could do one. All right, stick it. Final Fantasy.
90 hours. No thanks.
I told you about the other day. I started playing Grandia because I just needed to get that little bit of footage. And it was like, God damn it, Grandia, where's the save point? And it was like an hour to get And I was like, they just didn't understand, back in that people playing these would be dads. They just assumed we'd be teenagers.
We're not 16 forever, We
Come on,
things we got to do nowadays. So. Yeah.
So, no, I think it's fantastic. I would say like the gameplay. I think if you or we or anyone tries to assess it purely on gameplay, which obviously we were having a chat about it, and it's always tempting to say, is the gameplay really good? Is the game really good? I just think I think that is kind of missing the point. It is an experience, right? And that's what it's trying to be. It's not trying to be the perfect gameplay. It's the melding of the sound and the gameplay and sticking a vibrator down your pants and all that sort of stuff,
Right.
That face just, and fair play to it. It's doing its own thing, and I love it for that. And it is playable 20 years on, 25 years on, I suppose it is now. And
that's scary to think about.
I know. And that, you've got to rate that. So that's another, chalk it up, Miz. You've made another enduring classic. So good stuff.
Thumbs up, mate.
That's good. That's the high quality review in action.
Oh
yeah. Well, I think that was a thoroughly comprehensive and well thought out ramble through REZ.
Without question.
You got any final thoughts you want to throw in? If we glossed over anything, missed anything?
No. I mean, I was going to say, didn't you pick up Child of Eden, which was the spiritual successor or something?
Yeah, and we would have probably had
anything about it.
We'd have had a whole section on it because obviously it is spiritual successor and really does follow on with the whole Eden bit.
Oh, you've given it a go, so
no, because I bought it last week in order to play this. I have 3 Xbox 360s, and none of them would work because they've got that thing where the disc tray won't pull out because it's got the gears have gone faulty. So luckily I've been hooked up with a fella on Twitter and he's going to sort it out for me. So
cool. Right, I should have scrubbed that question off beforehand then. So we're just prolonging things now then. So.
Well, we can say
we will get around to it.
We can do a little multimedia version. We can when this video eventually comes out, I will hopefully have played it and we can add it on Twitter and it'll be super clever. But no, sadly, my Xbox 360, not only would they not open the tray, but they made a horrendous grinding noise as well. So they're probably screwed.
Right, it's one of them ones.
Yeah. So what that leaves now is we got to talk about the next game, and it's not just the game. So I mean, the game on its own is enough, but there's more.
I feel excited at just the thought of the next game.
So walk us in. Where are we going next?
There's no beating around the bush with this one. It's Christmas nights.
Yes,
Christmas nights.
That's right. Christmas is a coming. Oh, yeah. Christmas nights is a coming, and you talk about
what a combo.
I mean, and unplanned this, but obviously doesn't it follow on nicely from REZ in the sense that this isn't a game you can really explain what type of game it is and expect people to get it.
I've tried before to explain it to people, and that has not happened.
It is its own thing, and obviously, even if we weren't doing a YouTube channel, I would be getting the feels right about now because the Advent season is nearly upon us. It's time to fire that game up and start chalking off your achievements, and I've not put it in the system yet. And I may wait because I think we've obviously got enough of a window, but I may wait a little bit to fire it up just to sort of get my Christmas juices are flowing. Maybe I'll get some eggnog made and sit down and prepare for it. But the other thing we've got to mention then is we will see the return of the Christmas Nights Score Challenge. And I won't put the details in here because it'll be too long and dull for you to explain it, but I will put it on Twitter. So if you go to our Gaming for Ages Twitter page, we'll put the details on there. it will be a score attack challenge, and the rest of it we'll flesh out on Twitter. There will be prizes. You know, last year we did prizes for the Christmas Lights challenge. Very cool ones too. And everyone was so polite. I want to say they were so British, but actually one of the winners was American. But they were so polite. They kept going, "Oh no, give my prize to someone else, and give my prize to someone else." So I've kept both of them. so I'd just like to say publicly.
Yeah, you promised in this year you're going to give the gifts out, or what?
Well, let me just say publicly to the winners from last year, I do still have your prizes. And in fact, one of the prizes was a pair of Sega Saturn socks. It is still in its cellophane in my wardrobe. So you can still have, it's not been worn. So if you'd like to claim your prize,
they're good to go.
They're good to go. And I think your fine self can attest to the quality of those Sega Saturn socks, because I do believe you've got a pair for Christmas.
I do, and they're quite eye-catching as well. Like I did actually get a girl mention them the other day, like about my Sega Saturn socks. Like, I clocked those, did ya? It does the job with the ladies.
I noticed you said that she mentioned it, not whether she said it was good.
She didn't say it was cool. I was being optimistic.
There's actually one of the ladies in the office where I work who we talk games, and I always show her. I've a range of socks now, because I've got the Saturn ones, I've got Dreamcast ones, I've got some nice Mario Kart ones as well. And Street Fighter ones, which actually I haven't seen for quite a while. They've got Blanca on them, which are very cool. But also a pair of Mario Kart box shorts, which I just, before I could catch myself, did show her the top of, which was a bit weird. So there we go. I'm hoping that the girlfriend can't hear this conversation. She's seen them too. It's, I'm not denying her the knowledge. She's seen them, and that's why we don't talk anymore.
Right, there you go.
Anyway,
did that one.
So there you go. Much excitement is a coming. Both the next video up will be Christmas Nights, and coming within the space of a week, I think it will be from the time this video goes out, we'll be launching, or we'll be starting the Christmas Nights challenge. So watch out for that as well, which I think is fantastic. And just about brings us to an end, I think, doesn't it?
That does.
Yeah,
nicely wraps things up.
Yeah.
So I suppose, with all that being said, well, this has been great.
Beautiful.